Greetings and peace. I would like to start this with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours. Today's presentation, I would like to focus on the 1969 film by Jim Henson known as The Cube, which has many metaphysical teachings that can relate to us in the modern world and what we're dealing with. So I hope you benefit from this, and again, I represent myself only. This presentation is created solely for entertainment, education, and discussion under the principles of fair use. It is non-profit and produced for academic exploration and free speech. All interpretations herein are speculative analysis of Jim Henson's 1969 film, The Cube, relating to spiritual, metaphysical, and esoteric traditions, such as Sufism and Freemasonry. This is not to encourage you to join Freemasonry or anything else, but to teach the spiritual teachings and how they may apply to your personal development. And I encourage you to check out my Islam, Sufism, and Freemasonry playlist on my channel, as it will continue to help you understand the subject herein. Jim Henson's 1969 television special, The Cube, departs from his usual Muppet-centered productions to explore a surreal psychological space. A nameless man is trapped in a perfectly white cube, visited by strange figures who test his perception of reality. Though ostensibly a television experiment, the cube functions as a deep allegory for consciousness, the illusion of material reality, and the journey toward spiritual awakening. The film follows a man who awakens inside a sealed cube. Throughout the narrative, he encounters various characters who deliver conflicting explanations for his situation, scientific, psychological, and metaphysical. The cube becomes a symbol of confinement and reflection, evoking both a prison and a temple, a sacred geometry of inner exploration. Beyond its literal confinement, the cube represents the limits of human perception. It is a boundary that separates illusion from the awakening, the finite from the infinite. In esoteric terms, the cube is the stage of initiation, where the initiate faces themselves, stripped of external distractions, a space where reality reveals its constructed nature. The protagonist's confinement mirrors the Sufi concept of the veil, hijab, where human perception is limited by ego and sensory experience. The cube's blank walls becomes a metaphor for the mind's inability to see beyond form. As in Freemasonry's ritual chamber, the initiate must face isolation to awaken the inner light. Henson's cube embodies the same transformative enclosure. Throughout the cube, conflicting messages assault the protagonist, destabilizing his understanding of the truth. Each visitor represents a worldview, scientific reductionism, hedonism, or blind faith that ultimately fails to free him. This echoes both Sufi and Masonic teachings. Truth cannot be given by others, but must be realized inwardly through direct experience of the divine or the absolute self, meaning that you already carry all that you need to know within you already. One visitor references an unseen architect who designed the cube, a clear allusion to the Masonic great architect of the universe. This hidden designer represents the divine intelligence, structuring reality itself. In both Masonic lore and Sufi cosmology, creation is a geometric act of divine order. The cube, perfect and symmetrical, becomes a physical metaphor for this universal architecture. The cube has long been a sacred shape in esoteric traditions. In Masonic symbolism, it represents perfected matter, the rough ashlar, raw stone, refined into the perfect cube by spiritual discipline. Similarly, in Sufi mysticism, in Islam, geometry mirrors divine unity. The cube recalls the Kaaba in Mecca, the axis mundi around which the world's spiritual gravity revolves. The Kaaba, Islam's holiest site, is itself a cube, a house of emptiness that contains the infinite. It symbolizes the heart purified to reflect the divine presence. In this light, Henson's cube mirrors the Sufi heart, the qalb, white, enclosed, and filled with visitors who represent the lower self's distractions, The man's journey is a purification toward unity, and inside the Kaaba, you also have the pillars and the altar, right? Just like how you have in a Masonic lodge. The three pillars representing strength, wisdom, and beauty, and the altar to bow before God. And outside, you have those that are participating in the rite of circumambulation, right? And the Kaaba, the perfect ashlar stone temple of God. Sufism teaches that multiplicity is an illusion, obscuring the singular reality of God. Now, the cube dramatizes this through fragmentation of experience. The hero cannot discern truth because he clings to appearances. Like the Masonic initiate confronting illusionary tests, he must transcend form. The cube's collapse at the end parallels the mystical annihilation of all dualities into divine unity. The strange visitors function as both guides and deceivers, reflecting Sufi notions of the spiritual teacher and the nafs, which is your ego, which test the disciple's sincerity. In esoteric psychology, these figures are inner archetypes of the self projected outward. The initiate's challenge is to discern truth among illusions, much like in Masonic or Sufi initiations. Each encounter in the cube represents a test, whether through temptation, ridicule, or despair. The initiate's endurance and discernment are measured through these trials. This mirrors Masonic initiations where the candidate is symbolically entombed and must find the inner light, and the Sufi trials, the mujahada, that refine the soul through patience and surrender. Near the film's end, silence becomes the only truth left. When words and logic fail, stillness emerges as the path to understanding. This echoes the Sufi practice of zikr, remembrance, leading to silent unity. Similarly, in Freemasonry, the initiate's silence signifies wisdom, the unspoken truth that transcends dogma. Henson's protagonist reaches this threshold before liberation. In one moment, the man confronts his reflection, questioning identity itself. The mirror becomes an emblem of gnosis, self-knowledge as the key to transcendence. Sufi masters such as Ibn Arabi describe the world as a mirror in which God contemplates himself. The Masonic candidate, too, is taught that the temple he builds is within. The cube's sterile whiteness symbolizes divine abstraction, the infinite potential before creation. It is the unmanifest state described in both Hermetic and Sufi cosmologies. From this void emerges multiplicity. By returning to white emptiness, the initiate symbolically returns to God, the dissolution of ego into pure awareness. In Masonic initiation, the candidate undergoes a symbolic death in darkness, later emerging into light. The protagonist's confinement and eventual revelation mirrors this process. The cube itself functions as the chamber of reflection, a space of introspection where the seeker confronts mortality, illusion, and the truth before rebirth into gnosis. The Sufi journey culminates in fana, the annihilation of the self in the divine. When the cube dissolves in the final moments, this symbolizes the ego's dissolution into unity. Like the Masonic transformation from rough to perfect stone, the man ceases to exist as an individual and becomes absorbed into the universal whole. The final revelation is freedom, not by escaping the cube, but by realizing that the cube itself was never real. Reality is consciousness perceiving itself. This is the ultimate teaching shared across mystical systems. Liberation is not escape from form, but recognition of unity beyond it. Henson ends with paradox. The man is free because he no longer seeks freedom. Though best known for his children's work, Henson was fascinated by metaphysics and human potential. The cube reveals his engagement with philosophical mysticism beneath popular culture. Its blend of humor, absurdity, and metaphysical symbolism makes it a rare artifact of 1960s esotericism, where Eastern and Western occult ideas converged in media art. And in the 1960s counterculture, this is another gem from that era. Today, the cube resonates as a metaphor for digital confinement, screens and algorithms forming our new perceptual walls. The man's existential struggle anticipates our mediated consciousness. In a world of infinite reflections, the ancient wisdom of Sufi and Masonic teachings remind us that truth is not out there, but within, the divine spark that perceives the illusion. Here are the resources that I recommend you look into to further in your studies in this subject, including Jim Henson's The Cube, which is available here on YouTube as well, and I'll put the link in the description below, including the written works that I recommend here as well in terms of understanding the subject further. Thank you for exploring the metaphysical dimensions of the cube. Thank you for watching. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com. And of course, all my work is for the purpose of free speech, entertainment, nonprofit, which is protected under the fair use of copyright laws for education and nonprofit. Thank you. All rights reserved.